Speaker, I thank you for your kindness, Speaker, to make some contribution to the State of the Nation address delivered by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Speaker, some few introductory remarks will suffice. Speaker, I will wish to ask a few questions. First of all, I wish to know if the President told this August House the truth. And the answer is definitely yes. Order. Was the President extraordinary in his presentation? The answer was yes. Did the President accept to deal with the plethora of economic challenges facing this country? The answer is yes. Now, I've heard many of my colleagues on the other side repeatedly make the statement that the President didn't touch on this, the President didn't touch on this, and many other things. In fact, the President was spot on in his statement that the SONA, or the State of the Nation address, cannot be replaced with a budget statement. And in a few days, the audacious budget statement will be presented in this House to show a clear path to the progress of this country. Mr. Speaker, I have known His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in my days as a student leader. An orator, a good speaker, and an admirable legal luminary. But that day was exceptional. Speaker, 10 minutes to the end of the address, the whole House was quiet because the speech was replete with wisdom, practical solutions, and of course, defining a path for the progress of this country. Just because, if you permit me, just a few statistics as the President enumerated. The President made it clear that our debt profile stood at 122 billion. That's bigger. And then I was scared to the teeth, making reference to some statistical figures churned out by the President, that some 92% of the debt profile of this country was procured by the ex-Wild NDC administration.
In just 8 years. In just 8 years.
In just a space of 8 years. That was totally unacceptable. And now I can appreciate fully why, when we went to the polls, the MPP was talking about free SHS now. And our colleagues on the other side, usual of them, talking about free education, progressive free education. Because they knew what they had done, the havoc they had done to the economy. So they could not have accepted that a free SHS was possible. We want to assure our colleagues there will not be discrimination. The Honorable Haruna Iddrisu, his constituents are going to benefit from the free SHS that is going to be implemented by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Again, my good friend, Honorable Akando, his constituents are going to benefit from the free SHS. Even my good friend, you are definitely going to benefit from the free SHS.
Thank you very much. In this House, when we are debating, we don't mention people's names as if you are addressing them. Also, when you are mentioning the minority leader and you are saying Honorable Haruna Iddrisu, you are not respecting the standing orders. Everybody, if you are a minister, you are referred to as a minister. If you are a leader, so do you do. So if he is excited about the speech, which to me, people heard the buzzing of the bees and didn't understand their president. Unlike your mama who speaks Ghanaian English. So it's on him.
Honorable member, you will stop personalizing and continue.
Speaker, I take a cue. The Speaker, The President mentioned matters related to irrigation and agriculture. For the 6th Parliament that I was part of, all the State of the Nation addresses presented to this House, I recall vividly that matters related to irrigation, particularly the Accra Plains, has been a huge subject matter. Promises upon promises, which has turned to be a fiasco. His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's dream of one district, one dam will indeed irrigate all arable lands in the northern region, particularly one village, one dam. One village, one dam. One village, one dam. Will ensure that His Excellency's dream of one village, one dam will ensure that particularly in the northern region, all arable lands are irrigated to facilitate agriculture, and to ensure that we produce enough to feed our citizenry, we produce enough and to export even the excess. Speaker, it is heartwarming.
Thank you very much. Honorable Adogbu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Adogbu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Honorable Speaker. I rise respectfully to support the motion on the floor, to thank His Excellency the President for his delivery of his maiden State of the Nation address. Mr. Speaker, it is interesting to know that His Excellency said he was in a hurry, and now I can understand why. With your permission, I come under Order 89 to read His Excellency's, portions of His Excellency's statement. Order. On page 4, His Excellency made this point, and I wish to quote. He said, 2016 election year, total projected expenditure for 2016 was 43.9 billion, but actual expenditure amounted to 50.3 billion, and unplanned, unbudgeted expenditure of 7 billion, and I'm very curious. Mr. Speaker, permit me to read the review budget of 2016 presented to this House by the then Minister of Finance, Honorable Seth Terkper. And with your permission, I read from page 60, paragraph 61, 261. He said, Mr. Speaker, the total expenditure and arrears clearance have been revised downwards from 46.4 billion to 46.2 billion. Mr. Speaker, I doubt where His Excellency got the figure 43 billion because it is not known to this House. Mr. Speaker, this becomes even more worrying when you consider the fact that in November 2016, the Bank of Ghana reports that Ghana's total expenditure as at that time was 41.7 billion. Now, for us to have run the dotted line within 1 month to accumulate an additional 9 billion Ghana cedis can only be to justify a 7 billion mystery that we are struggling to unravel. Mr. Speaker, again, there are so many confusions around the President's speech when it comes to the economy. During the IMF visit and the report of the IMF, we were told, and indeed His Excellency made reference to that when he said, Ghana's deficit is 9%. This report was issued on the 10th of February 2017. Mr. Speaker, 4 days later, the senior minister, who is an important member of the economic team and who we have been told was involved in all deliberations with the IMF, appears before a meeting, a breakfast meeting of Graphic Business and Stanbic Bank and declares that Ghana's deficit is 8.6%. I'm at a loss as to whether I should believe His Excellency the President or the senior minister,
particularly when the president has picked a figure that is not known to this House. This is an expenditure projected of 43 billion instead of 46 billion. Again, His Excellency makes a point that Ghana's debt to GDP is 74%. Mr. Speaker, if you translate that into GDP actual values, you will get a GDP of 165 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, as per the review budget and the budget documents of this House, we are aware that the NDC projected a growth rate of 4% at a total value of 160 billion. From the President's statement, we exceeded that target of 160 to 165 billion, and ironically, our growth rate rather dropped to 4%, to 3.6%. That is something that we need to look at. In order to address this confusion, Mr. Speaker, I have to refer to the Bank of Ghana to see whether I can get some help. And Mr. Speaker, permit me to quote from the Bank of Ghana's Monetary Policy Committee's report of January 2017, which terminates in December 2016. And with your permission, Mr. Speaker, I quote. Mr. Speaker, the total debt of Ghana as at November 2016 stood at $30.1 billion. This translates into a debt to GDP of 71.9 billion. My question is, as at November, if you translate this figure to Ghana's GDP in value terms, at a terminating exchange rate of 4.3, you get a figure of 180 billion Ghana cedis of GDP value. 15 billion more than the figure reported by His Excellency, the President. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore not surprising. It is therefore not surprising that His Excellency, the former President, John Dramani Mahama, granting an interview in South Africa, indicated that Ghana's debt to GDP should be 65%, and I explain why. Mr. Speaker, let's take the figure of 180 billion Ghana cedis as reported by the Bank of Ghana in November, and granting that there are no economic activities occurring in December, and that will hold that figure constant. What you get at a debt of 122 billion is a debt to GDP of 67%. Given that there are economic activities in December, you should be getting a bigger figure for December and be coming gradually to the figure of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama of 65%. Of course, the President is in a hurry. The President is in a hurry to paint a very gloomy picture of this country. A gloomy picture that is not supported by the facts, a gloomy picture that cannot exist and that cannot be granted. Again, Mr. Speaker, I would like to make reference to the President's statement on the financial system of Ghana. And here I would want to refer us back to 2008. In 2008, Ghana's banking system was in shambles. It was so much in shambles that our capital adequacy was 7.7%. Today, capital adequacy is 17%, close to 10% more than 2008. Mr. Speaker, the banking sector was under so much stress that Barclays Bank of Ghana recorded its first loss in 50 years of 7 million Ghana cedis. It took 2 years under his leadership, J.E.M. Mills, for Barclays Bank to recover and make a profit of 59 million Ghana cedis. But in the wake of that, Madam Emanakatwe, who was the managing director from Zimbabwe, was fired because of the performance of Barclays Bank. Fast forward 2016, and we have a different story for Ghanaians to see. His Excellency made a statement to the effect that our non-performing loan portfolio has deteriorated. Again, this is not supported by the facts. And here I would like to quote from Monetary Policy Committee's report of 2017 January, terminating in December 2016. And with that report, the Bank of Ghana reports that the non-performing loan position of Ghana declined from 19% in October to 18.8% in November and to 17.4% in December. Instructively, the Bank of Ghana reports that this was underpinned by the restructuring and commencement of payment of the energy sector levy. And again, I would like to report that the figure reported by the Bank of Ghana excludes the second payment of $155 million.
Do you rise?
Rightly so, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect, I rise on a point of order. The honourable member in his submissions argues that the managing director of Barclays Bank was fired for non-performance. Mr. Speaker, all I want him to clarify is that information he's putting out here.
You rise on the point of clarification.
Mr. Speaker, it's very misleading because, Mr. Speaker, it is misleading because there was no such public statement that somebody has been fired.
Are you challenging the figure?
Mr. Speaker, I am challenging the statement that the managing director of Barclays Bank was fired. What was put out in the public domain was that he had resigned. What was put out in the public domain was that he had resigned. But on this floor, the honourable member claims that the managing director was fired for non-performance. I want him to provide further and better particulars to support the claim, because there was a public statement from the bank that the man had resigned. Which is which, Mr. Speaker?
Honourable member on your feet.
Thank you very much.
Are you willing to substantiate that allegation that a particular person was fired, or you want to withdraw that and continue?
Right, Honourable Speaker, I think that it doesn't
But
change.
honourable, respectfully.
Yeah, respectfully.
Respectfully.
Yeah.
If it is a misinformation, for Hanga, it's a serious matter.
Right, Honourable Speaker, with your permission.
Please, listen. If you are not certain, you are making some very good points. If you are not certain of that one, please withdraw and continue.
Thank you very much, right, Honourable Speaker. I withdraw that statement and continue. Mr. Speaker, I made a point that His Excellency the President is aware of the Monetary Policy Committee's report. That report indicates quite clearly that as at December, His Excellency the President was inheriting a financial sector that is healthy, that is stronger, and that is underpinned by restructuring. And here again, I would like to quote from the statement of the Monetary Policy Committee. And the Monetary Policy Committee indicates that the non-performing loan position of Ghana declined because of the restructuring, reclassification, and the commencement of payment of the energy sector levy, and therefore indicates that the decline that we have seen was a sustainable decline based on a popular source of revenue. With popular source of revenue, we have been told it's it's a nuisance tax. We have been told it has all manner of names. But I want to indicate also that that report excludes a payment, a second payment of $165 million. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we should be seeing a further drop coming the next report of the Monetary Policy Committee. Mr. Speaker, I would like to indicate that, again, when you look at the external sector, which the President was very silent, he has inherited a very strong external sector. Ghana's balance of payment recorded a surplus of $267 million for the first time in 5 years. And again, unlike 2000, when our external reserves could only cover 1.8 months of import. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
For the opportunity to contribute to the State of the Nation address by His Excellency the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. My focus this morning will be on the vision of His Excellency the President. And Mr. Speaker, permit me to
Honourable First Deputy Speaker will take the chair in the course of this. Please proceed.
Permit me to quote on the vision. To quote on the vision of the Excellency the President on page 15 of his address. He states, "It is a country where we focus on trade, not aid. A hand up, not a handout. It is a country with a strong private sector. It is a country that recognizes the connectedness of its people and economy to those of its neighbors. This requires a forward-looking vision for our country, enabling us to confront our challenges and embrace our opportunities, not one fastened in the rearview mirror. It is a Ghana beyond age. That is the vision of His Excellency the President, a Ghana beyond age. I believe that this is a laudable vision for our country. It is a time when virtually all our development efforts are premised on some donor or development partner assistance. It is really a bold visionary who aims to achieve a country beyond age. This would put us up in the class of the world's advanced countries. This is a wake-up call for all and sundry, for all in regard to self-reliance, in regard to self-belief, in regard to hard work with integrity and honesty. This is a call which should resound across our nation, across all the media houses, across all our communication channels, to all our towns and villages, and beyond to the visit to our citizens in the diaspora, that our vision is a Ghana beyond age. Mr. Speaker, to show that this is no empty rhetoric, His Excellency the President, and in the body of his speech, sets out how he intends us to work together towards realizing this goal. He sets out the key elements for the industrial transformation of our nation, such as the Industrial Revolution with results which will result in the creation of jobs and help resolve the great challenge of our times, which is unemployment. Mr. Speaker, as a representative of a largely rural constituency, and I'm able to say, I'm sure many other members of parliament represent similar constituencies, the agricultural program, with its planting for food and jobs tagline, will be the basis for the agro-processing industry. This will naturally complement the One District, One Factory program, which will bring incomes to our rural areas and boost the human dignity and confidence of our people. Mr. Speaker, the completely free education program will bring relief, especially to poor rural dwellers whose children can live up to their best God-given potential. In addition, when a working national health insurance scheme is in place, the major pillars of poverty would have been broken. A job to provide income, free education for young people, and health insurance will result in a healthy, educated populace ready to challenge the world. This is the vision of a Ghana beyond age. Let us support His Excellency the President to bring this about, to realize his dream, such as Ghana will take its place in the history of the world, especially as we celebrate our 60th anniversary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the
opportunity. Very grateful, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the motion on the State of the Nation address. Mr. Speaker, listening to His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, one got the impression, which has been stated by many of my speakers, my colleague speakers earlier, that the President was quite partisan and did not rally the nation. Indeed, when he came to assess the economy, he said, and I quote on page 3 of the State of the Nation address, "It gives me no pleasure to have to say that our worst fears have been confirmed, plus a few additional unpleasant surprises as well," unquote. One will be wondering, where's fear? Is this an economy? Is this a nation that is akin or can be likened to Syria or Iraq or Libya? You wonder. And Mr. Speaker, perhaps we may be able to learn some lessons from what His Excellency John Evans Atta Mills said when he delivered his first State of the Nation address on the 19th of February in 2009. And it's interesting to note that that State of the Nation address was earlier than this one, though we are told that this is a president in a great hurry. Professor John Evans Atta Mills said, quote, "We will depart from the practice of undoing the valuable contributions of our predecessors. A house that is constantly rebuilding its foundation is doomed to remain stuck to the foundation level, never to reach completion and decoration, let alone occupation. Ghana deserves better," unquote. I do hope that in subsequent State of the Nation addresses, we will acknowledge the contributions that all governments have made. Mr. Speaker, on page 2 of His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's address, he stated, and I quote, "Mr. Speaker, I am indeed in a hurry. I am in a great hurry," unquote. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, the people of this country voted for His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo for great results, not great hurry. We want great results, not a president who will be in great hurry. In any case, we all know that it is really about the direction and not just being in a hurry. Though there's a saying that if you rush, you crash. But we ask, what is the direction of this hurry? So far, we have a lot of concerns. This State of the Nation address failed to touch on the very tragic incident in Bimbilla, where over 10 people have been confirmed dead, many have been hospitalized, a whole village has been abandoned, several villages have been abandoned, and all we hear is the president telling us greetings from the Gambia. He spent a lot of time on the Gambia, but nothing on Bimbilla. When we raised it, the communication director of the MPP said that it will be in the budget. Most shocking revelation. The State of the Nation address again did not touch on the helpless CD. This morning it was reported that the CD has depreciated by a whopping 5.2%.
Honourable member, hold on. Honourable member from Enshano.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on order 93.4. Mr. Speaker, with your kind permission, I want to read. The speech of a member must have reference to the subject matter under discussion. Mr. Speaker, we are discussing State of the Nation address. Limited to the address instead of veered off to talk about other matters. His Excellency was silent on the Bimbilla conflict. I wonder why NDC or our friends on the other side keep on reminding us to comment about this very delicate, sensitive issue that borders on someone's sensibility. So, Mr. Speaker, we should limit ourselves to the State of the Nation address and address it accordingly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member, be guided and continue.
I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, the direction of this hurry did not touch on any foreign policy matter.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague from the other side, Honourable member for South. Honourable member for North is saying that the President's State of the Nation address did not address anything on foreign policy. I'm so surprised. If you read page 6, page 6, Mr. Speaker, with your notice, I'll read paragraph 6. It says, we have to irrigate needed to make farming a well-paying business.
Oh, hold on. Would you indulge me? We aim to popularize farming by encouraging many people to take it up as a full or a part-time activity. A national campaign, Planting for Food and Jobs, will be launched to stimulate this activity. An amount of 125 million. An amount of $125 million.
Honourable members, order. Are you done?
I'm not done.
Then can you go straight to the...
My God. Let's keep quiet.
Kindly address the chair. Can you go to the point you are addressing relating to foreign policy, please?
Mr. Speaker, Ghana is in partnership with the Canadians to help.
Honourable Kujato, please continue.
Mr. Speaker, today the people of Ghana have heard that
Honourable member, you have 2 more minutes.
Foreign policy.
2 more minutes.
Mr. Speaker, the point I was making is that 22,802 Ghanaians could have been employed. 2 months down the line, this suspension order that came from the transition team is still enforced, and these 22,802 Ghanaians are still at home. And yet the president comes here and laments and bemoans and appears to be sympathizing with the youth of our country who are unemployed. Hundreds of schools have been constructed. There are spaces that have been created, vacancies that have been created because of this expansion to access, and Ghanaians are waiting to be employed. The transition team must lift this ban so that Ghanaian youth can be employed. 22,802. Already this is happening at a time where even the few who are getting jobs are being dismissed. Instead of job creation, we are seeing job substitution, where national service personnel In winding up, Mr. Speaker, as we observe the great deal of confusion that has greeted the policy on free SHS, we don't know where the source of funding is, we don't know how it is going to be implemented.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is misleading the House. His Excellency never asked for the 22,000 people he's talking about that have been laid out. They are checking things. The president didn't say that those people be unemployed. The president is creating, in an effort, the president is trying to create more jobs for people of this country. Mr. Speaker, he was talking about foreign policy. Mr. Speaker, what is happening in South Africa happened after the president had given the State of the Nation address. The president has nothing to do with this. So that's why.
Your last sentence, please.
Mr. Speaker, we want to appeal to the new government to keep an eye on quality education. So far, we are not hearing anything about that. In 2016, this country recorded the best BEC results ever. 3,994 candidates scored above 500. Before that, the highest was 11. This is unprecedented. For 4 consecutive years, Ghana was adjudged the best performing WASI country. The University of Ghana has been adjudged by Times Higher Education as the best university in West Africa and the 7th best in Africa. They should keep an eye on quality education as they...
The motion on the floor, the State of the Nation delivered by His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Mr. Speaker, when our colleague who just contributed made a statement that His Excellency the President thanked President Mahama for his contribution in the transition, and for that matter in 2020
the NADO should do same to hand over power to NDC. Mr. Speaker, that is on the contrary. It's not going to happen. Mr. Speaker, because the kind of work that His Excellency the President is going to put in place is going to make it practically impossible for the NDC to think that they can regain power in the next 4 years. Mr. Speaker, we have an NDC government that will be quick with a growth of 8.4% in 2008 without oil. But after getting oil that we worked hard under President J. Kufuor and NPP administration, with all the resources that they have, with all the revenue that they accrued, local taxes, exports of minerals, yet their growth was below 4%, 3.6%. And this is what the NDC wants us for us to clap for them. Mr. Speaker, let us go to agriculture. On page 6 of His Excellency the President's statement, and with your permission, let me quote. I believe the starting point in turning around our fortunes must be with agriculture. Unfortunately, the state of agriculture in our country right now is not good. Farmers are left on their own. It is not surprising, therefore, that food prices are high and we are having to import almost everything we eat, including vegetables, from Togo, our next door neighbor, Togo here. Mr. Speaker, this is because the NDC government contribution into agriculture was less than 1.1%. The Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Fisheries, last year, the budget we approved in this chamber, 50 billion Ghana cedis, 1.2% was shared by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and the Ministry of Fisheries.
I don't remember.
How is this going to reflect in the production of food items produced in this country?
Hold on. I don't remember for Bodi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the quotation my colleague read from the State of the Nation's address is not correct. It's not true that we import almost everything we eat in this country. And it's also not true that the farmers of this country are left alone.
I don't remember. So which study order are you relying on?
So it's misleading the House, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I love Contombre too much. Even simple Contombre is important from his corridor in the Western region. Contombre is from Côte d'Ivoire. What are we talking about? Mr. Speaker, you see, our colleagues don't want us to tell them the facts. So please cool down and let me flow. Just relax.
Address the chair.
Mr. Speaker, in 2008, I recall when the NDC were in opposition, they were attacking us, the food imports, rice, millets, wheat, poultry products, was about $300 million at that time, thinking that when they had the opportunity to rule this country, they'd be able to manage. And surprisingly, Mr. Speaker, this jumped from $300 million to $1.5 billion from the 8 years of the NDC administration. It is serious, Mr. Speaker. It is very serious. And Mr. Speaker, that is why you have a pragmatic president who has sat down, whose background is from the Eastern region, who has been to the farm himself. He has seen the practicality and the pain that our farmers are going through in this country. And for that matter, he said, no, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to put measures in place to make sure that farmers, first of all, can be recognized. And Mr. Speaker, what is he talking about? He's saying that extension services, you go to certain places, even extension services, motorcycles that they even ride on to go and inspect farm crops is even a problem. Buying fuel into these motorcycles is a problem. These are the facts. And my colleagues from the other side, they know about it. Mr. Speaker, he is telling us that he is going to make sure that extensive services that is between the farmer and the production are taken care of. The supply of inputs is also very crucial. That is why, Mr. Speaker, recently I traveled to Volga. As we drove past Pigu, Diari, towards Nasia, before we got to Wale Wale, a vast land, and the people of the northern region have at least between 2 and 3 years. In the whole 12 months, they have only 2 to 3 months rainy season. That is why you need a practical president who will tell the law there's a need to have a departure from the current system that we have. Let us have this one village, one dam to make sure we can store enough water for our brothers and sisters who are so hard working.
Hold on, Honourable Member for Mbele.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've been paying keen attention to my honourable member. Thought we are debating the state of the nation, addressed as delivered by His Excellency the President. The whole time he's been describing what the President intends to do in the future. You have the chance for the next 4 years to do that. Talk about the state of the nation as has been delivered. But the things that the President will do, essentially, how he's going to transform agriculture, you have that opportunity to do that. But talk about the state of the nation and the things he has said.
That's no point of order. And please continue.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague, Kofi. But Kofi, let me re-emphasize again. We are not lamenting because the President said he's not going to complain. The practicality on the ground is that from the state of the nation, food production is so low. And as a president, he needs to address the problem. And how do you address the problem? And I've told you a few minutes ago that extension services, that hitherto was nothing to write home about. It is now that he's going to put them some sort of enthusiasm to make sure that farmers and the extension officers have something good at call to do. By so doing, they'll be able to give the right professional advice to our farmers. Provision of seeds. Is it not going to enhance productivity in the agriculture industry? Mr. Speaker, the planting for food and jobs, the President spoke about it. About $125 million from the Canadian government. It reminds me when I was a young boy in the primary school, Operation Feed Yourself. This is very important. It is going to create jobs for our youth. It's going to move them away from the streets. And I talked about the Nasia land that I saw that they use in growing rice. Mr. Speaker, you can imagine when this one village, one dam is constructed, the kind of happiness and smiles that will be seen in the face of these hard-working youth from the north. The elders are aging. Therefore, we need to put pragmatic policies in place to encourage them to stay and produce agriculture for us. Mr. Speaker, let me continue. The President also did indicate.
You have 2 minutes.
Oh, Mr. Speaker. I beg you. Mr. Speaker, the President addressed the issue about unemployment. On page 7, with your permission again, let me quote. The most critical challenge inherited by this MPP government is the high unprecedented level of unemployment, particularly among the youth. It's a debilitating and confidence-sapping problem that affects every home. Can argue on what the official rate of unemployment is, but we can all see desperation of our young people. They want to work, but there's no work. And some of them are being driven to unacceptable behavior. We have veritable time bomb on our hands. Mr. Speaker, this is a national security matter. If our young men and women on the streets are not having jobs to do, it is a problem for us. Therefore, he provided a solution. And what did the President say, Mr. Speaker? One, we must address the challenge. The government is embarking on one of the comprehensive programs of industrial transformation. Mr. Speaker, the private sector is encouraged to come in here. Government alone cannot absorb all jobs from the youth. Therefore, the private sector needs to be encouraged so that they will have that support. And by so doing, Mr. Speaker, that is why the nuisance taxes that is really battling production in the private sector are going to be taken care of in the budget come Thursday. Mr. Speaker, another issue that I want to talk about is about taxes.
Honourable Member, why not?
Last year, Mr. Speaker, the Import and Export Act, I think Act 951 of 2016, the Exim Ban that was passed. This is a trade and industry funds, but I think that it can play a very crucial role in the support of the stimulus package that the President wants to initiate to support businesses for our country, to promote employment for our youth. Mr. Speaker, in one year, the issue about corruption, one area that has killed this country is about the sources. And my colleagues on the other side can bear test to that. Because of lack of competitive bidding, it has led to an increase in projects. And by so doing, you sometimes don't have value for money. I believe that His Excellency the President was apt, he was straight to the point, he has identified the problem that is killing our country. And it is our duty as members of Parliament, devoid of our confidence. Let's sit and how we solve the problem of this country, rather than to politicize this issue about we and them. Thank you very much.